Cancer. I got chills the moment these cards appeared. What I'm seeing is one of the strongest, life-changing energies I've read in a long time. I want to tell you something before we begin, and I want to tell you the truth of it, because I don't think I can sit here and pretend otherwise. I had to stop. I sat down to record this 3 separate times. 3 times I sat up, 3 times I laid out the cloth, 3 times I put my hands on the deck, and 3 times I had to get up and walk away because I could not hold the energy that was coming through without it moving something in me that I wasn't prepared for. I'm not saying that for effect. I'm not saying it to make this sound bigger than it is. I'm saying it because I think you deserve to know what it costs, sometimes, to sit down and actually feel what a person is carrying, and then to say it out loud to them. Because when I open myself up to whoever is on the other side of this screen, whoever is meant to find this reading, whatever hour it is where you are, whatever room you're sitting in, whatever you were doing 3 minutes ago before this pulled you in, when I opened myself up to you, the first thing I felt was not the future. It was the weight. And I have to name the weight before I can tell you what's coming, because if I skip past it, if I jump straight to the good news, the bright news, the your life changes news, then I'm doing what everyone else in your life has done. I'm rushing you past the part where you needed to be witnessed. So we're not doing that today. Not here. Not in this reading. Today we're going to sit in it first. And then we're going to walk out of it together. Wherever you are, get comfortable. Actually comfortable, not perched on the edge of something ready to leave. Put your feet flat. Let your shoulders come down from where they've been living, up around your ears, for what I suspect has been a very long time. And breathe. Not a deep, performative, spiritual breath, just a real one. In and out. You're here now. That's all you have to do. I want to describe to you what came through because I think you need to hear it described accurately by someone who is not looking away from it. The first thing I felt was tiredness, but not the tiredness of a long day. Not the tiredness that a night of sleep fixes. This was the other kind. The kind that lives underneath the tiredness. The kind you feel when you wake up before the day has even asked anything of you yet. The kind that makes getting out of bed feel less like a beginning and more like a negotiation you lose every single morning. That kind of tiredness doesn't come from doing too much. It comes from carrying too much for too long, without ever being allowed to set it down. And I felt the shape of what you've been carrying. Not the details. The details are yours, and they're different for every single person watching this. But the shape, the weight of it, the particular way it presses. You have been the strong one, for someone, for several someones, maybe for everyone. You've been the one people come to, the one who holds it together, the one who has the answer, or finds the answer, or invents an answer because someone needs one and there's nobody else. You've been the reliable one, the steady one, the one who doesn't fall apart. And do you know what happens to people like that? Nobody checks on them because nobody thinks they need it. Your competence became a wall. Your strength became a reason for everyone to stop looking closely. And so you have been quietly, invisibly, uncomplainingly falling apart in a room full of people who genuinely believe you're fine, because you told them you were, and because you're very, very good at making it convincing. I want to say this to you plainly, and I want you to let it land. You are not fine, and that is not a failure. You are exhausted from a job nobody gave you, nobody thanked you for, and nobody is ever going to relieve you from until you put it down yourself. The second thing I felt was the disappointment. Not one disappointment. The accumulation of them. The way they stack. Because a single disappointment is survivable. Anyone can survive one. What breaks people is the pattern. The fourth time. The seventh time. The moment where you stop being able to tell yourself this was just bad luck. And you start to wonder if the problem is you. You've had that moment, haven't you? You've had the moment where you looked at your own life and thought, maybe I'm just not one of the people this happens for. Maybe good things happen to other people. Maybe love works out for other people. Maybe money comes easily to other people. Maybe there's some rule, some code, some obvious thing that everybody else understood and nobody ever explained to you. And you've spent your whole life a half step behind, working twice as hard for half as much, and smiling about it, because what else are you going to do? I felt that thought in you, that quiet, corrosive, 3 a.m. thought. And the third thing I felt, and this is the one that stopped me, this is the one that made me put the deck down and walk away from the table, is that you kept going anyway. Do you understand what that means? Do you understand how rare that is? Because you had every reason to stop. You had every reason to close. You were handed over and over again a perfectly reasonable justification to become bitter, become hard, become one of those people who has decided that hope is for fools, and the only safe posture is the one that expects nothing. And you didn't take it. You are still here. You are still watching a video about your future, which means whatever you say out loud, some part of you is still reaching. Some part of you still believes there's something on the other side of this. Some part of you, after everything, is still soft. That part of you is not naive. That part of you is not stupid. That part of you is the single most valuable thing you own, and it is the reason everything is about to change. Because the universe does not reward the people who never got hurt. It rewards the people who got hurt and stayed open anyway. Now let me tell you about the moment you're in. Not the moment in general, the specific energetic moment, the one I've been feeling build for weeks. There is a threshold quality to this time, a hinge quality. Have you ever stood in a doorway between 2 rooms and felt the temperature change? One side warm, one side cool, and you can feel the exact line where one becomes the other? That is where you are standing right now, energetically, in your life, on a line. Behind you, the long corridor of everything you survived. Ahead of you, a room you have never been in. And I want to be honest with you about what standing on that line feels like, because it doesn't feel like triumph. It doesn't feel like celebration. It doesn't feel like arrival. It feels like grief. That's the part nobody prepares you for. When the thing you prayed for actually starts arriving, the first sensation is usually not joy. It's mourning. Because in order to walk into that new room, you have to let go of the identity that survived the old one. And that identity saved your life. The version of you who armored up, who anticipated the disappointment before it came so it couldn't blindside you, who kept one foot out of every door, who never asked for anything so they could never be refused. That version of you was brilliant. That version of you was a genius of survival. That version of you got you here, and that version of you cannot come with you. That is what you are grieving. That is why this feels strange, why the good news landing in your life keeps arriving with a strange hollow feeling underneath it. You're not ungrateful. You're not broken. You're shedding. And shedding hurts, even when what's underneath is more beautiful. For some of you, this is showing up as an actual ending. Something is finishing. A relationship, a role, a job, a chapter, a friendship that used to fit and now doesn't. And you've been trying to hold it together out of loyalty. Loyalty to who you used to be and to who they used to be and to a version of the arrangement that stopped existing a long time ago. For others of you, nothing external has ended yet, but something internal has. You've stopped believing in something. A story, an excuse, a hope you'd been keeping alive on life support. And the silence where that story used to be is deafening, and you don't know what to put there yet. Both of you are in the same place. You're in the gap, the in-between. The part of the story where the old world is gone and the new one hasn't announced itself. And I need you to hear this. The gap is not a punishment. The gap is a passage. You are not lost. You are in transit. There's one more thing I'm picking up about this specific season, and I want you to pay very close attention here because it's precise. Something is going to be revealed. Something you have suspected, but not confirmed. Something you felt in your body, but talked yourself out of, because you had no evidence, and because you've been trained, badly, unfairly trained, not to trust yourself. The evidence is coming. For some of you, this is about a person. You have felt something off. You felt a coolness, a distance, a wrongness, an inconsistency between what someone says and what someone does. And you have driven yourself half mad, wondering if you're imagining it, if you're being paranoid, if you're the problem. You are not imagining it, and it's coming to the surface. For others of you, this is about an opportunity you didn't know existed, something happening behind a door you didn't know was there, a conversation about you in a room you weren't in. And that too is about to surface. Either way, the fog lifts in this season, and even where the truth is uncomfortable, it is going to set you free, because you have been navigating your entire life with a broken compass, and someone is about to hand you a working one. Let me shuffle, let me be quiet with the deck for a moment and hold your energy. I call this spread the weeping gate, and I want to explain why before I turn a single card, because the name matters. In old architecture, in old cities, there was often a gate through which the mourners passed. Not the celebration gate, not the market gate, the gate you walked through carrying grief. And here is what people forget about that gate. It was the same gate you came back through. It was not one way. It was the gate of leaving, and it was also the gate of returning. The same stones, the same arch. What changed was you. That's what this spread is. 5 positions, 5 stones in the arch. The weight, what you have carried. The wound, where it entered you. The turning, the mechanism of the change. The gift, what arrives. The gate, who you become on the other side. Let me pull. The first card, the weight, the 9 of Swords. Oh, I'm so sorry. The 9 of Swords. The card of 3 in the morning. If you've never seen this card, let me describe it, because the image tells you everything. A figure sitting bolt upright in bed, face buried in their hands. Behind them, on the wall, 9 swords hang suspended in the dark. Not stabbing, not falling, just hanging there. Suspended. That's the cruelty of it. The swords never actually fall. The dread never actually resolves. There's no catastrophe, there's just the anticipation of catastrophe, night after night after night, for years. This is the card of the mind that will not stop. This is the card of lying in the dark, running the same conversation for the 9th time, thinking of what you should have said. The card of the financial calculation you do in your head at 3 in the morning, adding and re-adding numbers that don't change. The card of watching someone breathe beside you, asleep, peaceful, while you lie awake terrified of a future they don't even know you're afraid of. This is the card of carrying it alone. And I want to point out the most important detail on this card because almost nobody talks about it. The swords are on the wall. They are not in the figure. They have not touched them. They are decoration. They are threat, not injury. Do you understand what the card is saying? Most of what you have suffered has been anticipation. Not the thing itself, the dread of the thing. You have lived through catastrophes in your mind that never came. You have grieved losses that never happened. You have paid in advance and with interest for disasters that were never scheduled to arrive. And your nervous system does not know the difference. It does not know that the swords are on the wall. It has been treating them as though they were in your chest every single night for years. That is the weight. That is what you have been carrying. Not a series of external tragedies, a permanent, unrelenting, internal bracing. And here is why it appears in the first position of a reading about your life changing. Because you cannot receive what's coming while you're braced. The bracing has to end first. The second card. The wound. The moon. And now I understand. Now the whole picture clicks into place. The moon is the card of distortion, of a landscape seen by moonlight where everything is real, but nothing is the shape you think it is. Where the path exists, but you can't see it. Where the shadows on the ground look like animals, and the animals look like shadows, and you cannot tell which is which. The moon is not a lie. That's the sophistication of this card. The moon is a truth you cannot see clearly enough to trust. And that is your wound. Somewhere, and for many of you this happened very early, earlier than you have conscious memory of. In the house you grew up in, you learned that your perception could not be trusted. Maybe you said something is wrong and you were told nothing is wrong. Maybe you said you're angry with me and you were told, I'm not angry, don't be ridiculous. Maybe you felt the tension in a room like a pressure change before a storm. And every adult in that room looked you in the eye and told you the room was fine. And you had a choice as a child. You could believe your own senses and conclude that the people you depended on for survival were lying to you, which is unbearable. Or you could conclude that your senses were broken. You chose the second one. Every child does. It's the only survivable choice. And you have been paying for it ever since. That is why you cannot trust your gut. That is why you second-guess every instinct until it evaporates. That is why you stay too long in things you knew were wrong in month 2, because you needed evidence, because your own knowing was never allowed to count as evidence. That is why you're so tired. Do you see it? You have been doing every single thing in your life twice. Once by instinct, and then again, laboriously, by proof. Because you were never permitted to just know. The 9 of Swords was the symptom. The moon is the cause. And I want you to sit with that. Because a wound that gets named accurately is a wound that can finally close. You were not born broken. You were trained. And what was trained can be untrained. The third card, the turning, the 8 of Cups. I actually laughed when this fell. Not because it's funny, because it's so exactly right that it's almost absurd. The image, a figure with their back to us, walking away. Behind them, 8 cups, arranged carefully, stacked neatly, not broken, not spilled, not destroyed. Perfectly good cups. And the figure is leaving them anyway, walking uphill, into the dark, under a moon. Under the moon. The same moon from your second card. That's not an accident. The deck is talking to itself. Here is what the 8 of Cups means, and I need you to hear it precisely, because it is the most misunderstood card in the deck. This is not a card about escaping something bad. This is a card about leaving something that isn't bad enough. That's the horror of it. That's why it takes people years. If the cups were shattered, you'd have left already. If the relationship were abusive, if the job were cruel, if the friendship were openly hostile, you would have gone. You are not a coward. You've walked away from bad things before, but it isn't bad. It's fine. And fine is the strongest cage ever built. There is something in your life right now that is perfectly adequate and is quietly killing you. For some of you, that's a relationship. Nobody's cheating, nobody's shouting. They're a decent person. You have a life. And you lie awake at 3 a.m, 9 of Swords, remember, with a feeling in your chest you cannot name. And you tell yourself you're being ungrateful, because what would you even complain about? For others of you, it's the work. It pays, it's stable. People would be envious. And every Sunday evening, there's a heaviness that arrives on schedule, like a bill. And you've stopped mentioning it, even to yourself. For others of you, it's a version of your own life, a whole identity, a set of assumptions about what you're allowed to want, who you're allowed to be, how much space you're permitted to take up. Cups you didn't choose, cups someone handed you when you were too young to refuse them. And you've been standing there, dutifully, guarding cups you never wanted, for decades. The 8 of Cups is the moment you put them down. And here is the mechanism of your entire life changing. This is the answer. This is the turning. This is the thing. Nothing changes for you until you leave the adequate thing. Not the terrible thing. You'd have left that. The adequate thing. I know how frightening that is. I know that walking away from something that is fine looks insane from the outside. I know that you will not be able to explain it to the people who love you. They will say, "But what's actually wrong?" And you will not have an answer, because there is no answer in the vocabulary they're using. But look at the card again. Look at the figure walking uphill in the dark. They are not running away. They are walking toward. They have simply understood something that the people around them haven't, that there is more, that the cups they were given are not the only cups that exist, that a life can be perfectly acceptable and still not be theirs. And the moment they turn, the exact moment, the moment captured in this card, is the moment their entire life changes. That moment is happening for you now. Let me pause here. I want to pause because I've been watching this reading unfold, and I know that at least one of these cards has just landed somewhere in you in a way you were not ready for. Maybe it was the swords on the wall. Maybe it was the child who was told the room was fine. Maybe it's the cups you've been guarding. If something has just cracked open in you, I want you to do one thing for me. Go down to the comments and tell me which card found you. Not a paragraph, not an explanation, just the card. Just the moon or the 8 of Cups. I read every one, and I want you to know you are not the only person who is sitting there right now feeling exactly this. There are thousands of you, and you are about to see each other. Now let's turn the 4th card. Because everything we've done so far has been about what you're leaving. This is what's coming to meet you. The 4th card, the gift, the star, the star. I need a second. Do you know what the star is? Do you know where it sits in the deck? Do you know what has to happen immediately before the star can appear? The Tower. The star is the card that comes directly after the Tower. It is the card of the morning after the disaster. It is what you find standing in the smoking wreckage of everything you thought was permanent. The image is a figure kneeling by a pool, naked, completely, utterly unarmored for the first time in the entire deck. 1 foot on the land, 1 foot in the water, pouring water back into the pool from one vessel and onto the earth from another. Above them, 1 enormous star and 7 smaller ones. The star is the card of hope that has survived contact with reality. That is the distinction, and it is everything. This is not the naive hope of someone who has never been hurt. This is not optimism. Optimism is cheap. Anybody can be an optimist before anything has happened to them. This is the hope of someone who has been through the tower, who has watched it all come down, who has been through the 9 of Swords and the moon and the long walk uphill in the dark of the 8 of Cups, and who kneels down anyway and takes off the armor anyway and hopes anyway. That is not naivety. That is the most hard-won, expensive, deliberate thing a human being can do, and it is yours. You have already earned it. It is not something you have to go and get. It is the thing you have been building without knowing it every single time you got knocked down and did not close your heart. So let me tell you what the star actually brings, because it brings very specific things. The star is the card of being seen. Not admired, not praised, seen. And there is a person, or there are people, some of you it's plural, who are about to see you. Actually see you. The version of you underneath the competence. The version underneath the reliability. The one nobody checks on. Someone is going to check on you. And I want to warn you about something, because I've watched this play out too many times to not warn you. You are going to want to deflect it. Someone is going to look at you with real, undefended attention and ask if you're okay. And every instinct in your body is going to make a joke, change the subject, turn the question back around onto them. Because being witnessed, when you have spent your whole life being the witness, is unbearable. It feels like being skinned. Do not deflect. Please, do not deflect. Stay in it. Let it be awkward. Let your face do the thing it wants to do. That moment is the gift. That moment is what the entire reading has been building toward. Not the money, not the outcome, not the external change. Being seen and not running. The star is also the card of healing that happens quietly. I need to be honest with you about the shape of what's coming, because I don't want to sell you something that isn't real. There is not one single miraculous day where everything is suddenly fixed. That's not how the star works. The star is not the sun. The star is the slow return of your ability to sleep. The star is the day you notice you haven't run that conversation in your head all week. The star is catching yourself laughing at something and realizing you didn't calculate it first. The star is standing in your kitchen, doing something completely unremarkable, and being visited by a totally unearned and inexplicable sense of okayness, and looking around, almost suspicious, wondering where it came from. That is what's coming. It is going to arrive so gently that you may not even notice it arriving. And for some of you, and this is the 7 small stars around the big one, this comes materially too. The star pours water into the pool and onto the land. It feeds both the emotional and the physical. Relief is coming to your circumstances. Something eases. A pressure that has been constant becomes intermittent, and then becomes occasional. And then one day you realize you haven't felt it in a month. But understand the order. The star heals the person first, and the circumstances second. It has to. Because a person still braced for the 9 of Swords cannot hold anything good. They'll drop it, or sabotage it, or explain it away. So the healing comes first. That's not a delay. That's preparation. And here, at the gate, at the very end, the 5th card, Justice. I put my hand over my mouth when this turned. Because if you have been waiting, and you have, if you have been carrying quietly for years, the unspoken question, when does this get made right? Here it is. Here is your answer. But I have to tell you what justice actually means, because it is not what most people think it is. And this matters more than anything else I will say to you today. Justice is not revenge. Justice does not mean the people who hurt you get hurt. It does not mean the ones who overlooked you fall from grace. It does not mean the person who left you comes crawling back, ruined, begging. I know some part of you wants that. It's allowed to want that. That's a human thing to want, and I'm not going to shame you for it. But that's not what this card is. Justice is the restoration of accurate weight. Look at the figure. A sword in one hand, scales in the other. And the scales are not tipped in anyone's favor. They are level. They are true. Here is what has actually been wrong in your life. Not that bad things happened. Bad things happen to everyone. What has been wrong is that the scales in your life have been miscalibrated for as long as you can remember. Your contribution has been weighed as less than it was. Your effort has been weighed as less than it was. Your pain has been weighed as less than it was. Most of all, by you. Because you were taught by the moon to distrust your own instrument. You have been running a life on a broken scale. And justice is the card of the scale being repaired. That is the change. That is the entire change. That is what I could not stop crying about when I sat with this reading, because it is so much better than revenge and so much harder to explain. Everything is about to be weighed correctly, including you, especially by you. For some of you, this is going to arrive as an external correction, something formal, a decision that goes your way, a recognition, a settlement, an acknowledgement, something official and undeniable in writing that says you were right. For those of you in a long dispute, a long negotiation, a long injustice, justice as the final card is one of the most direct answers this deck gives. It resolves. And it resolves toward truth. For others of you, it's more intimate and, I think, more important. It's the moment someone says, I should have listened to you. The moment someone who dismissed you looks at the evidence and cannot dismiss it anymore. The moment the room that told you it was fine finally admits it was not fine. But here is the deepest layer of this card, and I want to end the reading here because it is the thing that actually changes your life. Justice also weighs you. That sword cuts in both directions, and this is where you have to be brave. Because for the scales to be true, you have to be honest about the ways you have kept them false, the ways you accepted less than you were owed and called it humility, the ways you stayed and called it loyalty, the ways you set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm and called it love, when what it actually was, if we're being honest, was fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of being too much. Fear that if you asked for your accurate weight, you would be told you were worth less than you'd hoped. And so you never asked, and you never found out, and you paid for that not knowing every day for years. Justice is the end of that. Justice says, ask. Justice says, put it on the scale. Justice says, find out what you're actually worth. and stop protecting yourself from good news. Because that is what you've been doing. Do you know that? Underneath everything, the Nine of Swords, the Moon, the Eight of Cups, you have been protecting yourself from good news. You have been refusing to hope so that you can never be disappointed. You have been assuming the worst so that the worst can't ambush you. And the cost of that strategy, the actual, real, arithmetic cost, is that it also keeps out everything good. The wall does not discriminate. Justice at the gate is the card that says, take it down. The reading is done. 5 cards. And they tell a complete, coherent, devastating, beautiful story. You were wounded into distrusting yourself. You have carried the cost of that in your body every night. You are now leaving the adequate life it built for you. Something gentle and hard-won is coming to meet you. And the scales of your life are about to be made true. But a reading is not a prophecy. A reading is a map. And a map does not walk anywhere. So here is what I need from you. 4 things. And I need you to actually do them, not just hear them. The first. Stop treating the swords on the wall as though they're in your chest. The next time the 3 a.m. spiral starts, I want you to do something almost insultingly simple. I want you to ask, has this actually happened? Not could it happen, not would it be terrible if it did. Has it happened right now in this room? And the answer, almost always, will be no. The swords are on the wall. You are not going to be able to think your way out of the dread. The dread is not a thought, it's a body state, and you cannot argue with a body. But you can name it. These are swords on a wall. I am safe in this room. This is anticipation and not injury. You will have to do this 1,000 times. It will not work the first 400. Do it anyway. This is how a nervous system is rebuilt. Boringly, repetitively, without visible progress. And then, all at once. The second. Give a single instinct its authority back. Not your whole life. Don't try to trust yourself completely all at once. You'll fail, and it'll confirm the thing you're afraid of. Just one. This week, pick one small thing you have an instinct about and act on it without building a case. Leave the event when you want to leave without inventing a reason. Say no to the invitation because you don't want to go, not because you have a conflict. Do not text back immediately. Buy the thing. Don't buy the thing. Take the other route home. Small, low stakes, unjustifiable. Because the moon didn't take your instincts. It took your permission to follow them. And permission comes back the way it left, one small piece at a time. The third. Name the adequate thing. You do not have to leave it yet. I am not telling you to blow up your life today. But I want you to say it. Out loud, alone, in the car, in the shower, wherever you say the true things. The thing that is quietly killing me is this. That's it. Just name it. Because here's what I know about the Eight of Cups. The figure did not decide to leave on the day they left. They decided months earlier. The day they left was just the day their feet caught up with a decision their heart had already made. Naming it is the decision. The feet come later. And they will come later. That's not a threat. That's a promise. The fourth. Do not deflect the good. This is the hardest one, and it's the one everything else depends on. When it comes, and it is coming, you are going to want to minimize it. Someone will compliment you and you will say, "Oh, it was nothing." Something will go right and you will immediately start scanning for the catch. Someone will offer you help and you will say, "No, I'm fine," reflexively, before you even considered it. Because "I'm fine" is the load-bearing lie of your entire life. Catch yourself. And then, don't do it. Say thank you. Say yes. Say, "Actually, I would love some help." Let the compliment land in your body instead of bouncing off the armor. You will feel exposed. You will feel like you're being seen naked. You are. That's the star. Kneeling, unarmored at the water. That vulnerability is not the price of what's coming. It is what's coming. Before I close, 3 things came through while I was holding your energy. And they didn't come as information, they came as sentences, spoken, clear. And I'm going to pass them on exactly as I received them. The first, you were not wrong. About the thing you've been questioning. About the feeling you couldn't justify. About the person you sensed something about and could never prove. You were not wrong. You were early. And the entire architecture of your self-doubt was built on the mistaken belief that if nobody else can see it, it isn't there. It's there. It was always there. You were the only one looking. The second, you are allowed to be the one who is carried. You have carried everyone, and somewhere in you is a rule. You did not write this rule, it was installed, that says the carrying only goes one direction, that your needs are an imposition, that to ask is to be a burden. That rule is a lie, and it is going to be disproved in the coming season by someone who shows up for you in a way you did not ask for and would never have requested. Let them. Do not say you're fine. You are allowed to be the one who is carried. The third, it is not too late and you are not behind. I felt the specific grief in you about time, about the years, about watching people who started where you started end up somewhere you can't reach, and doing the math and concluding that the window has closed. The window has not closed. You were not late. You were being built. And what took so long, the wound, the doubt, the walking uphill in the dark, that was not wasted time. That was the manufacture of the exact person capable of holding what's coming. A person who got it easily would drop it. You will not drop it. You know what it cost. I want to say one more thing, and then I'll let you go. I called this the weeping gate. And I told you at the beginning that in the old cities, the mourner's gate and the returning gate were the same gate. Here is why that matters. You cannot come back through a gate you never walked out of. Everything you have grieved, every disappointment, every night with the swords on the wall, every year spent guarding cups you never wanted, that was the walking out. And I know it felt like exile. I know it felt like punishment. I know that there were entire years where you were convinced you had been forgotten, that you had been singled out for a harder life for reasons nobody would ever explain to you. You were not forgotten. You were walking out. And now you are walking back. Same gate, same stones, same arch, different person. So put your hand somewhere on yourself, your chest, your throat, wherever it's been tight. And feel that it's still going, that it never stopped. Not on the worst night, not in the worst year, not once. Something in you has been beating faithfully, without permission, without applause, without a single person noticing, for your entire life. That is not luck. That is the universe's vote, cast silently, every second, for you. And now the reading is done, and it says the same thing. Say it with me, out loud, even if you feel ridiculous, especially if you feel ridiculous, because the ridiculousness is just the armor complaining. I was not wrong. I am not behind. I am allowed to be carried, and I am walking back through the gate. Say it until your body believes it. Your mind will get there eventually. It's the slower of the two, always has been. If this reading found you, and I think it found you, I don't think you clicked on this by accident. Then do 3 things for me. Tell me in the comments which card broke you open. Just the card. I want you to see how many other people write the same one. Share this with the person you thought of. You thought of someone. Right at the start, when I described the exhaustion, a face appeared. Send it to them. They will not ask for it because they are exactly like you. And subscribe and turn the bell on, because the next reading is a continuation of this one, and I don't want you to miss the part where it lands. I'm so proud of you. I know that's a strange thing to hear from a stranger, but I've spent 45 minutes inside your energy, and I mean it more than I can explain. You made it through the gate. Now go and be seen. Until next time, trust the instinct. Take off the armor and let the good thing in.